All right, today we're going to decode the official rulebook that guides the entire professional life of a public servant in Bangladesh. We're talking from their very first day on the job all the way to retirement. Let's dive in.
So what are we looking at here? Well, this is the source material. It's a pretty dense legal framework, but you can think of it as the ultimate employee handbook for every single public servant. It dictates literally everything they can and cannot do, and we're about to break it all down.
And here's our game plan. We'll start with the foundation of the rulebook itself. Then we'll get into the real nitty-gritty, the code of conduct. After that, we'll see what happens when those rules get broken. And then we'll flip the script and look at employee rights. And finally, we'll explore life after service with retirement and pensions.
So, first step, the foundation. You know, these rules, they aren't just simple guidelines. They are the absolute legal bedrock that a public servant's entire career is built on. It shapes everything, their duties, their rights, and their responsibilities to the state.
And it's not just one law we're talking about. It's a whole collection of different acts and rules that have been built up over decades. And together they create this complete, interlocking system that's designed to make the civil service run in a really structured, predictable way.
Okay, now let's get into the specifics. What are the actual rules of the game for a public servant? This next section is all about the government servant's conduct rules, and it lays out exactly how every employee is expected to behave.
And this is where it gets really fascinating. The rules regulate a public servant's life in surprising detail, both inside and outside the office. To make sure they stay impartial, they can't accept expensive gifts or even play the stock market. To ensure loyalty, they're completely barred from political movements and from publicly criticizing the government. The rules even reach into their personal lives. Marrying a foreign national requires getting official permission first.
So, that's a whole lot of rules, right? Which, of course, leads to the big question. What happens when somebody actually steps out of line? Well, the rulebook has a very, very clear process for that.
And that brings us to the disciplinary framework. This is a system that's built not just to punish people, but to uphold the integrity and the high standards of the public service itself.
So, the key legal trigger for any action is the term misconduct. In Bengali, it's ashada charan, and it's defined really broadly. It can be anything from insubordination to any behavior that's considered unbecoming of a public servant. That broadness gives the authorities a pretty wide scope for enforcement.
And the consequences, well, they're split into two big categories. Minor penalties might be something like an official warning or having a promotion withheld. But the major penalties, they can completely alter a career. We're talking about compulsory retirement, removal from service, or even outright dismissal.
But here's the thing. Punishment isn't just handed out on a whim. There's a formal, multi-step process. It all starts with a formal charge, and the employee gets a chance to give a written defense. Then, an inquiry is held to figure out the facts, and that report gets reviewed by a higher authority before any final decision is made. The whole system is designed to provide due process.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about rules and punishments, but the rulebook isn't all sticks and no carrots. To really get the full picture, we've got to look at the other side, the rights and benefits that come with a job.
A huge benefit, of course, is leave, and employees are entitled to all sorts of different kinds, from the standard earned leave and sick leave to special provisions for things like maternity, study, and even quarantine.
And just like everything else in this system, even leave is calculated with, mathematical precision. For instance, earned leave isn't just given out randomly. It's accrued at a very specific rate. 1 day of leave for every 11 days of duty. This really just goes to show you how incredibly detailed and structured this entire framework really is.
All right, and that brings us to the final chapter in a public servant's career, retirement. This part of the rulebook is all about providing stability and security after a lifetime of service to the country. The magic number here is 59. According to the Public Servants Retirement Act of 1974, that's the standard age for compulsory retirement. It's a fixed milestone, marking the end of a very long career path.
Once an employee retires, the pension system kicks in to provide a steady, reliable income. This is an absolutely core benefit. It's essentially the promised reward for dedicating decades of your life to public service.
And the whole system is built to directly reward longevity. An employee's pension is a percentage of their final basic pay, and as you can see, that percentage grows the longer they serve. So after 25 years or more, for example, they can secure a pension that's worth 60% of that final salary.
This phrase really sums it all up, doesn't it? The entire structure, from the strict conduct rules all the way to the pension plans, is built on a kind of pact, a lifetime of dedicated, rule-bound service in exchange for a promise of security, both during your career and long after it's over.
And all of this leaves us with one final big question to think about. We've just seen a system that's built on incredibly detailed rules, all designed to provide job security. But how does a system like that balance its promise of security for the employee with the public's demand for accountability? That's really the central challenge right at the heart of this rulebook.